China warfares rocket as Beijing threatens Australia with ballistic missile strike. China have threatened to launch ballistic missiles at Australia and its military bases if it gets involved with Taiwan as tensions rocket in the region. Speaking to Sky Australia, political analyst Professor Joe Siracusa issued grave concern over threats issued by China against Australia. Our Professor Siracusa was responding to an article in Chinese propaganda newspaper The Global Times which said China will launch ballistic missiles at Australia if they make any incursion towards Taiwan. China has made repeated threats of invasion to Taiwan in recent months as it ramps up its military and naval presence in the South China Sea. Professor Siracusa said in yesterday's Global Times they threatened Australia with intermediate range ballistic missiles. So some debris heading towards Darwin and Tindal and Sydney and maybe even Adelaide at the Edinburgh base. I mean the Chinese are very heavy handed right now, and I think it's good thing that we are pushing back on the debris. But he called on a global response to China's growing aggression, he said. But I would like to see a little bit more diplomatic pushback right across the world. This is the last time to challenge the Chinese before push comes to shove, so I think they would be very impressed if someone pushed back. The Australian politician analyst continued saying it's time to push back in all of these kinds of things. The article in question featured in the Global Times, which is considered the Chinese government's mouthpiece, on Sunday and spelled out how China will respond with force to retaliatory punishment over any incursion towards Taiwan. It went on to say the plan should include long-range missile strikes on the military facilities on Australia's soil if it really sends its troops to China's offshore areas and combats against the PLA. Chinese aggression has ramped up in recent months with deployment of the country's most up-to-date and largest assault ship, the Hainan, which was launched last month by President Xi Jinping and sent on operations in the South China Sea. And yesterday, Express.co.uk reported how a massive cache of illicit Chinese and Russian weapons have discovered on a stateless dhow boat in the North Arabian Sea by US Navy vessel USS Monterey on May 6. The illicit cargo of weaponry included dozens of advanced Russian-made anti-tank guided missiles, thousands of Chinese Type 56 assault rifles and hundreds of PKM machine guns, sniper rifles, rocket-propelled grenades, launchers. Other weapons on board the dhow included advanced optic sights for military use. The US Navy is now trying to discover the original source of the weaponry and the intended destination of the cache, and the cargo of weapons is now in US custody. The news comes on Sunday. A Chinese document recovery by Sky News Australia claimed to show that the Chinese government conducted research into how to weaponize coronavirus against their enemies. There is no suggestion the document is linked to outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. The sinister document titled The Unnatural Origin of SARS and New Species of Man-Made Viruses as Genetic Bioweapons is claimed to have been written over 5 years ago in 2015 by Chinese People's Liberation Army scientists and senior Chinese public health officials. One disturbing section read, major impact include enormous burden on healthcare system. Biological weapon attacks have much prolonged effect than conventional attacks like explosion. It may also highlight contagious disease that can be transmitted through various means. It continued by saying biological weapons will not only cause widespread morbidity and mass casualties but also include formidable physiological pressure that could affect combat effectiveness. Professor Siracusa concluded, I regard a threat like that a very serious diplomatic error on their part. Thank you.